And I can say this, Ministry of Environment in Nigeria have stringent norms, very stringent norm as compared to other global norms that you have to follow and get through before you are given environmental clearance. And it takes more than 8 to 9 months, in fact 2 seasons study, where they do these studies, checks and balances before they environmentally clear your plant. Besides this, the requirement of a world-class ETP plant which treats the water which comes out into the process and recycles it back. In fact, the technology what we are putting in, there's almost 0% or negligible water which goes out into the stream. So coming to your point on environmental aspect, we have these checks and measures which will ensure that we have a world-class environmental plant. On safety, of course, again the same thing comes in the picture. Is being a world-class plant, and world-class technology, we ensure. Is it my phone? Sorry. So we ensure that proper safety measures are also taken place, because what we are building is a world-class petrochemical complex hub, which will be one of the largest petrochemical hub in West Africa, where we have a methanol plant, we have an existing petrochemical plant, and where we have this fertilizer plant which is coming up. So proper allocation, the plot plans are also done and approved by proper authorities and also looked into by these international funding agencies to ensure the proper safety measures are taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I think that is extremely reassuring because the safety and the environmental issue are certainly becoming very dominant in the discussion part of it. Now, I want to come back to the agricultural transformation that the government has implemented, and within that context, the smart subsidy, the growth enhancement support scheme. Now, certainly that from all evidence, that has really worked well, and the farmers are able to get access to fertilizer on a timely basis. Now, I want to go back to Mr. Ben and say, look, the demand is being created now. Now, the issue is, how can the producers begin to supply very efficiently and meet that demand? There's also the issue of quality in this whole process. As we expand the market, certainly the quality of the fertilizer given to the farmers is a very important factor. A recent study shows that the quality of fertilizers, particularly in the West African countries, are sometimes not what they are said it is. And the other element, which is also a very important part, in terms of the bag, most of the bags are 5 kilograms less than what it is. So I pose that question because that's a very important element as we move forward in terms of the growth enhancement support scheme.
Okay, the first thing is every manufacturer will want to assure this quality assurance for their product. So if you have a brand, it is in your interest that you check from the factory to your distribution channel to the end user to make sure that that quality is what it is leaving your plant. What has happened in Nigeria or sub-Saharan Africa over the years is that the bulk of these fertilizers are coming from Eastern Europe, most especially from Ukraine, where you have all manner of sharp practices, both from the importers. From the importers, you go down to the distributors, from the distributors down to the local sellers. There's been stories about fertilizer having only 50% of its quality. There's also a study that has shown that the bulk of the fertilizer that had been used up in the north had actually degraded the soil. Nobody's really talking about that. There's a whole lot of soil degradation that has gone on. So it's given that if we have a brand. We have to protect our brand. And you're not going to, if you're going to appoint distributors, you have to make sure that these are long-term distributors who also follow your values, to make sure that what they deliver to the farmers, it's what they say it is. And when fertilizer is available, the issue of sharp practices will drop. Because once you cut off the middleman, if there's no third party between the manufacturer and the farmer, it will also drop. If you check issue of the bulk of the things that are happening is also because there's subsidy to collect, then there's sharp practices. Fertilizer today is about $350 to $400 per ton on the global market. By the time it gets to Nigeria, you take all into the cost of freight. It goes to the local farmer maybe about $700 or $800 per ton. So that huge gap will give rise to sharp practices. Now, the minister has been able to do that the fact that the farmers are buying directly from known entities, you'll be able to reduce it. Because if they have issues, you know exactly who to go and point out. So if you have a Notori and you have a Dangote or Indorama or Brass fertilizer, you have to create your own market. So it is in your interest that quality remains what it is. Beyond that, you can't always run away from the process of sharp practices. Even Nigeria as a whole, the land, the fertilizer quality and soil texture are different. Fertilizer that you use for tomato is not the same thing you use for cocoa. But in this place, most times people bring in, the popular one is 1515 NPK, and they just sell it. So the farmer who buys a wrong fertilizer to apply to his maize, he sees the maize turning yellow. So tomorrow you ask him to apply fertilizer, he'll tell you no, that the fertilizer doesn't work. So these are part of the training that has to be put in place to educate farmers, and then the manufacturers also have to have their R&D to look at the soil texture in different zones and also tailor their products to different markets.
Thank you very much. The next question is to the Honorable Minister. The government here has put in place some of the investments, incentives for investment, such as time-bound tax holidays to attract investment, particularly in the fertilizer sector. The issue is how easy for the investors coming in to set up a fertilizer plant to get a long-term gas contract. When I say easy in terms of the time element.
Well, in terms of the gas contracts, if you're referring to the actual exploration of gas,
exploration and the long-term availability of the gas to the plant.
Okay. Because exploration and production of gas, of course, will go along the same lines as crude exploration and production. In terms of the long-term availability in the supply of gas, which I think is what you're asking, I agree with what has been expressed here. There is, of course, and has been historically, a dirge in terms of the infrastructure to supply the gas, and I think Mr. Okoye made that very clear. You will realize, if we go back in history a little bit, that Nigeria has always been historically a crude exploration and production country. Gas was in fact associated gas, and it was the associated gas that was actually produced. The fact that we are now targeting our gas, and as we said, we have over 137 trillion cubic feet of it in terms of discovered reserves. We expect that we have another 600 trillion cubic feet undiscovered potential, means that we were now bound to begin to put in place the requisite infrastructure to ensure the supply of that gas.